Hi everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of Leading Lady Talks, and I'm so excited to have you guys in this new year. 2025 is yours for the taking, and I'm so excited for all the amazing things that the year has in store for you, for me, for us at Leading Ladies, and everyone else listening to us. If you're not a woman and you're listening, welcome to 2025, and I'm sure it's going to be your best year yet.
Amen.
So today, I'm so excited to have someone extremely special. She's a celebrated tech. She's a celebrated, in fact, there's so many things. I don't even know what to start with. You know, she's the founder of Empowered in My Skin. Mm-hmm. She's also a tech executive who has worked in some of the biggest brands in Canada. We're talking about the TD Bank groups of this world, mm-hmm. EDC, and so much more. But I think one of the things that draws me most to her would be that spirit of joy that she carries. When I introduce my guest, and during the course of this conversation, you would understand what I'm saying. Like, she's just a bundle of joy and so much more. Well, my guest today... My guest today is actually the award-winning Nkechi Robinson.
Hey.
We need to do that. Welcome to Leading Ladies Talks Dance. Welcome. Mm-hmm. And thank you so much for coming in studio. I know we've been trying to do this, and then we moved it, and then I know you're very busy.
Nothing happens when it's not supposed to happen, right? Everything happens when it's on.
Agreed.
Yeah, on time.
100%.
So we are totally on time.
Yes.
And I could not be here if you didn't ask me. So I'm grateful, and I carry a lot of love for you, and we haven't even known each other for a really, really long time. So you are amazing to watch and to observe.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you for the kind words. And, you know, I have the same respect and, you know, admiration for you as well. I think the first time I saw you, I'm actually trying to remember when was the first time I saw you. But I think the first time I saw you must have been Be Future. Maybe last year or so. And I was like...
Oh, saw me. Okay, but not when we met. Okay,
yeah, like I saw you, yeah, and I was like, oh my God, our energy is so up. Because like you were just like, let's go, let's get it. And I'm like... And I was like, who is this lady in the red hair? Your signature red hairstyles. And I know I was just joking with you and asking you, like, how many red wigs do you have?
14, at least 14. But anyway.
Yeah, so, but I mean, aside from that, you were just a bubble of like energy and joy that, you know, you just be like, I want to be part of that joy. I want to know who she is, where she goes and everything. And I think that was like my first interest in like, okay, getting to know you as a person, finding out who you are and stuff like that. So yeah, very inspiring. Where do we start from with your journey?
Where do you want to start?
So, how did you come about this personality? Mm-hmm. Like this whole energy bubble that, you know what, when people come in, they're drawn in and they stay.
Yes, I hear you. Oh my gosh. So I guess, and I've shared this story quite publicly. I did, just for some context, I did an actual speech as part of Speaker Slam. So shout outs to the Speaker Slam community. I did it in 2019, and it was around identity. And actually, that's where I really was able to craft the story as to sort of how I've landed on today. And so I'm born to, obviously, Nigerian parents. And that in its own is its own podcast.
I know.
But they blessed me with this beautiful name, Nkechi. And so I've been Nkechi since I can remember. And that's the only name that you're allowed to call me. My doctor's office can call me Brenda, which is my middle name, but that's it. So I've really embraced the name. And my dad was an engineer. My mom did psychology, and my parents had come from Nigeria to get to get an education. My dad had every actually intention to go back to Nigeria, but it was during the Biafra War, and so he decided that he would stay here instead of potentially going back and then being stationed in the north, right? So that brought us to Montreal, and I think that that's really the catalyst for me because I got to really observe my parents' uniqueness. And so they moved into a completely white, affluent neighborhood in the West Island of Montreal back in 1978. And so there was a lot of racism. So I grew up with a lot of racism. Like I always say we were the only speckles of black. And so for a lot of people, we were the first Black people that they saw, right? And living in that type of neighborhood, I had stories where I observed my mom. The doorbell would ring. We had door-to-door salespeople. I'm not sure if you had that back in Nigeria back in the day, yeah, right? So people would come to the door, knock on the door, and they're selling you like a vacuum cleaner or something. And I remember this one story where the door-to-door salesman knocked on the door. My mom answered, and she was in the afternoon. She'd been wearing her apron, and he asked her, "Is the lady of the house home?" White neighborhood, so you expect the black person to be the maid, yeah. And she said, "I'll come back later on in the evening. That's when she'll be here," you know. And when she closed the door, I was like, "Mom, why would you say that?" She says, "Oh, just wait and see, you know." And so that evening, we always dressed up for dinner, typical African household, right? And the door-to-door sales guy comes back, and my mom answers in her evening wear, and it's just that instant, that recognition that he caught the message, right?
Right.
And so I share all of that because I know that I had a really powerful upbringing of knowing who I am and being just standing firm in my identity. But you grow up in society and you're only home for a certain amount of time, and then you're out with the rest of the world. And that just created some conflict, right? And so the conflict of being bullied, and so I had this, probably the foundation of my identity was really, really strong, but my experiences were very contrary to that. And so I grew up with that, and I just had to navigate what that did to me. And I think as a human being, it creates these experiences of shame, being bullied, being called ugly, and all this and the other. And unknowns to me, I just kept putting these Band-Aids over these, these wounds that you get as a child, where you just want to be loved and liked, and then there's personality that goes around that, like people pleasing and wanting to be like this, wanting people to like you and trying to figure out how to, navigate that. There's probably a little bit of politics around that as well, right? Like just trying to get like friends and all this and the other at school. And then that kind of grew, like I grew through my teenage years, and then I, got into university. And then, that's when you start to come a little bit more into your own, because you're now meeting different type of people. I got exposed to more Black people. I got exposed more to people I've always grown up around with a lot of Nigerians, but more older versus people like my age.
Your age, yeah.
But I started to meet like some Nigerian people my age in school because of international students. And so I got connected to a really nice tight-knit African community, and then I also joined partly the African community at school and this and the other. And so I started to learn more about my culture, and so now I was this blend of coming into my own. And so yeah, I've always been seen as being vibrant and whatnot, and navigating all of that. Then you get into your career, and because of what I chose to do, I've been in technology, I say my entire life. I started programming when I was 6 years old. And I love mathematics. And so I did computer science and mathematics in university. And then there was just this natural flow that got me into tech, in the boom of tech. And then I've just, grown since there. I was an individual contributor at the early starts of my, work life, I'm going to say. But then my career quickly got me into leadership positions, more so what other people saw versus what I saw in myself. And so I'm sharing all of this because, I'm navigating life and things are happening. My work ethic is born from my parents. Things are happening for me.
Nigerian parents will give you the work ethic you need in life.
Right, for life, right? Even if you don't ask for it, it's innate in you. And so all of that made me start to become really, really successful. And I was navigating this life, and things were really great. And anything I try to put my, hard work towards earned me just great benefit. And so got to this inflection point now where my career is thriving. I'm now married. I've been married for a while, and I get to, so in 2014 I would have been 42. I get to the age of 42. Okay, so that's a real fast forward. And something happens in my career and in my personal life that collided at the same time. And then I had a really great friend who had introduced me to this book called A Return to Love. And this book talks about love and hate, how babies are born into love and we learn hate. And if we can learn hate, then we can unlearn it also. And the reason that she'd kind of introduced it to me, is interesting that you talked about my joy, because at that time she says, I don't really feel like, I feel like there's an energy of joy, but it's not really connecting, to you probably, like was more what she was saying. And so I read this book, and let me just tell you something, like there's something about, we can read and read and read and read and read. The question is, are you going to apply? And I always tell people, like, if you're reading, just why not? Why not just try some of the theories that you're reading, or some of the, like the philosophies or whatever it is, just give it a shot. The strategies, the principles, just try. So this particular one, I said, I'm just going to try, because the author, Marianne Williamson, encourages us to excavate like our experiences, to really look at them. They can't be absent from you, but you can look at them from a place of love, like a place of learning, and remove the jealousy, the frustration, the hate, the anger, the unforgiveness that, sort of they scarred you with, and replace it with love, right? And I went on that journey. I did that excavation. I ripped all that stuff out. I exposed it to light, which is therapy, and then I reinserted it all back into me. And I would say it was at that point that I started to really like feel lighter about life, because when you're not weighed down by hate and frustration and jealousy and envy and unforgiveness, that's the worst one, right? And it's just you have multitudes of experiences that you recognize are behind you, but they've taught you something. They've helped you to get to where you are on now, and you carry them from a place of love and grace and kindness, and you will find you will only be immersed in your joy, right? And so that was, I think, was more so then that I'm going to say I became more magnetic in personality, because I was experiencing joy from within,
Within. Wow.
And then that's what I would say started to draw and connect more to other people, right?
So 2014 was the year, the turning
2014 was the catalyst, yeah.
Wow.
I think there's many turning points in life. I think I'm in a season right now of a turning point. But yeah, 2014 was the one where I'd say was the biggest one, because out of that was born like Empowered in My Skin. Out of that was born what I now say was just flowing into my purpose. I don't think purpose is to be found personally. Right. I think it's flow. I think it's there within you, and when you just flow with it, I think that's when you start to move in purpose, right? Yeah.
Right. I heard something in what you said about when you take yourself out of those negative situations, which is like you're looking at it from like an outsider now. Of course, when the healing and everything has happened, but that experience sometimes is not as easy as you just said it. There's a lot of like breaking down, mental health breakdowns that could happen in between, where you feel like, okay, I'm feeling better today, but then I wake up tomorrow, how do I feel? Do I feel as good as, can you walk us through how you were able to kind of like, navigate those seasons? Because now you can look back at it and say, okay, 10 years ago, 11 years ago, this was the catalyst and this was what I did.
Yeah, and I think that we talked about it earlier, like when we start to think about like books, like I was a voracious reader, right? I read a lot of books, and like I said, a lot of them were just, they threw out these philosophies, these practices, these ways of being, and I was like, why don't I try? And I think, to what you just said, who was the author? I'm not going to remember the author nor the book, but the concept really was something happens in your life, and the distance between what happened and awareness of what happened, that the space in between is suffering. And I do believe the longer you suffer, the more likelihood you're to get into mental health and a lot of those type of issues, right? Where it becomes really hard to wake up, becomes hard to navigate life. Just everything feels hard. So my goal in life has always been to shorten that distance, right? And so again, is it easy? No, but I do remember the philosophy is there's an event that happens. The distance between that event and awareness that that event has happened is suffering. And the quicker you can get to that space of awareness, the less you suffer. So it's about having, like, that works for me because it's so easy. There's an event that happened. And the distance between that event and awareness is suffering. And I would ask
how
myself,
long do you want to
suffer?
suffer?
Do you want to suffer? Right. And so you're like, okay, so what are the things I can do to help me get to awareness, right? And I think that then you can start to figure out, okay, how do I quickly get myself to awareness, right? Like, and so, and not, I can't believe that happened to me. Or, it's starting to listen to the language that you're using. How many times, when something happens and you're like, oh, like it could be like an hour later and you're like, oh, because you're like, I can't believe I did that. Well, guess what? You did that, But an hour later, you're still like, oh, I can't believe that. Well, the distance between that event and when an hour later, and you're, I can't believe I did it, is this suffering.
Shutting your suffering.
Yeah.
I think the word or the phrase for the day would be shutting the suffering period.
Yeah, and I think it is totally within your control, right? And I think it comes down to getting to a place of understanding, realizing that a lot of times, like, what is in your control and letting go of anything that wasn't, and I do believe you're not responsible for how other people show up, right? Like you're more responsible for how you show up. And so that one you can quickly get into root cause analysis on, you can get into awareness, you can get into understanding, you can give yourself grace, you can forgive yourself, you can start to figure out, like, what can I do? How can I course correct? Like, these are all, like, focus on what is in your control, and then give yourself a lot of grace. I think that is, like, it's such a really, it's a word that we use a lot.
Yeah, it's very cliche.
But it is actually very powerful. Like,
right. Right.
Grace doesn't feel chaotic. Grace feels loving and soothing and calm and still, and it's just, it feels like you're taking care of yourself when you give yourself grace.
Wow. Look, we just had like a whole TED talk right now. Literally.
Not close,
I could listen to you all day.
I will take that.
Because, like, the germs are just dropping.
Yeah.
And you're not even trying.
Yeah.
You're just, like, giving us your answers. And they're like, there are gems there. Like, shorten your suffering has to be, like, my takeaway until when you drop something else.
Yeah.
But, like, I feel like I am going to take that literally and go with it because, I feel like we extend our suffering period by holding on to people or things or experiences, and it weighs us down. That's and stuff like that. So thank you so much for sharing that.
That's right.
And, of course, we are saying you're dropping gems. There's a speech that you made that has gone viral, about 10 million, hundreds of thousands of reposts and things like that. I'm sure that there's something in that speech that you want to touch on tonight. Please. Because, like, I watched it, like, more than once, for sure. And I just kept going back to how do you come up with these things? That's not the question. Like, how do you come up with these things?
Well, I think, I mean, it's my life, I told a little bit of the story there. Like, that talk was really about identity, and it was about, that journey that I had, where I was now able to take all of those experiences that I had, kind of rip out the pain, the shame, the frustration, the anger, the jealousy, the resentment, the unforgiveness out of me, and expose it, and then realize that, okay, these things happen to me. And Oprah's cliche, what is it? It doesn't happen to you, it happens for you, right? And it's about trying to figure out, okay, what did I learn from it? What's the lesson? And I think more importantly, and as a God human, when you realize that your life is not your own, then I also feel that you can detach yourself from your problems, right? And so, that talk is more about, was about sharing that I got to a place where my problems weren't my own. And with 8.2 billion people in this world, there's no problem that people around the world have not experienced. And in
nothing is new.
Nothing is new. And in this age of AI, it's heck of a lot easier to go
Find
and
people that are going through what you're going through.
And I've written a book, a blog, like, you know, the 10
There's
tips
probably
to
a
get,
TikTok.
the 10 tips of TikTok, the 10 tips to get, like, there's so much opportunity for you to realize, okay, this is not my problem to own. Because I think that's another way to get rid of suffering easy is you don't own that suffering, right? It is an experience that happened, and chances are it's happened to some other human somewhere else. So it should lighten the load of, yeah, I'm not alone. Right? It should lighten the load by recognizing I'm not alone. This is not my problem. I don't have the monopoly on this problem. Because then other than that, I start to feel like that's really selfish. Like, what makes you think you own that problem? Like, why should you be the one that owns it? You know, and then, you know, reversing it and saying that if my life is not mine to own and it is mine to share and my experiences are mine to help, to teach from, you know, how can I quickly understand the lesson and the message, and how can I now understand in a way that I can share it with others so that they don't have to maybe go through what I went through, you know, and it can save them from that. So the speech covered that. And then, but more importantly, I think the biggest message coming out of that was 2 words, was you matter. But here's the funniest thing about that speech. Those were 2 words that I never said to myself when I was a kid. As part of that journey that I shared that started in 2014, the hip hop preacher, Dr. Eric Thomas now, he had this like a hip hop, like, what do they call it? Mixtape. And it was, you know, it was about you matter. And I just started to look at myself in the mirror and just tell that woman, like, you matter, like, you are important, like, who you are matters. Like, so walk like you matter, talk like you matter, think like you matter, like function in a way like your life matters, you know? And it was just so important for me to not only embrace that for myself, but to recognize that there's so many people in this world that also need to recognize that no matter what they're going through, no matter what their circumstance is, I don't care. Like, you absolutely matter. Like, everything about you matters. And I did that speech in July of 2019, okay? And I didn't win. I placed 4th. It was picked up by a couple of like motivational platforms, but it wasn't until pandemic. So pandemic hit us March 2020.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, maybe some weeks after the pandemic had started, Goldcast reached out. And they had reached out to ask. They found a couple of my speeches online. They wanted to stitch together, and they made a little bit of a short motivational clip from that movie and this and the other, from that speech, and another one that I'd done. And they stitched together, and the message really was about, like, you matter, you know. But who would have thought that that would be a time when the world needed it the most?
That message was important, right.
And that's what made it go viral, right? It's timing. It was absolutely timing, and things that people just needed to hear. And that just brings me to another thing, like you can only matter when you spend time recognizing why, you know? And I encourage people all the time to get to know who they are. Like, that is fundamentally, I think, leadership principle number 1. Like, you have to know who you are, and you have to know that you are a transient being, and you're constantly evolving and becoming, and just don't settle into, like, you're a finite human that can't shift and pivot and evolve and grow and this and the other, but you're constantly becoming more and more and more what your spirit actually needs you to be in this world, right? And so I say chase that.
Wow. Look. Whew. Okay. So you have said so many things, but one thing that I would say that is very, very synonymous with you, your name, when you come to mind, would be authenticity. And being authentic is something that is very undervalued these days. You know, people want to be... I don't think people appreciate authentic people enough.
Well, so let's talk about authentic. Because I don't think authenticity means...
Right.
Well, so do you think authenticity means good?
Well, it depends on how you want to look at it. So I'm being myself 100%.
Yeah.
To you, might look like, why is she acting this way? Or why does she behave in a certain way?
Really?
Right.
Because I think... So for me, when I think about authenticity, it's hard for me to say authenticity without thinking about vulnerability. But when I think about authenticity, I think for a large part, I don't know that we are 100% authentic all the time, because I do believe that there is a level of like I'm gonna say like die to self. Like there's no ego, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a freedom to be in a moment without feeling like that moment needs to be anything about you. Like I like that's what's coming to me in this moment now. I've never actually expressed it like that, like, you know. And so when I first started to think about authenticity, I was at one of the companies that you named that I worked at, and they said, bring your authentic self to work.
No, don't take your authentic self to work, because then
They know that, but that was it. But here's the thing, like my whole thing is like if you're not in your authentic self when you sit at a table, you will start to use things like, or you'll start to think that the existence of the imposter syndrome is present. You'll start to think about, oh, well, these people are not listening to what I'm saying, or you'll start to feel othered, or you start to feel like, but when I sit at, like, we talk about being the only. Okay, so sorry, let me just go back, because I just said a bunch of stuff without saying anything at all, I don't think. But they said, bring your authentic self to work. And I was like, what is my authentic self? So again, it was around the time of the journey of 2014. And so my authentic self, in my opinion, is when I start to really become into my authentic self, it was that I start to understand the experiences I'd gone through, what they had deposited in me, the work I was doing to peel off the layers and to almost delayer myself, right? To get myself to that space where I am a whole human living an experience from as much truth as possible in any given moment. Right? So meaning that if I'm in a space where it's making my skin crawl, I realize that I have the power to leave. Why would I stay? Because in staying, I feel I'm not being my authentic self. Right?
Right.
And a lot of people are like, this whole, I'm going to keep it real. I don't think that that's being authentic. No, I think that that's exposing your pain. Right? A lot of times, right? Because I do believe on the opposite side of authenticity, another human doesn't get burnt. Right? So there's this great book I'm reading called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. And in it, he has this, and apologies if I'm all over the place at this point, but in it, he has this powerful I am statement that I think defines authenticity. It says, I am the one who sees. From in here somewhere, meaning within you, I am the one who's looking out, and I'm aware of the events, the thoughts, and the emotions that are passing before me. So your authentic self is your most conscious self, is the one that says, I'm not attached to anything that's happening right now. I'm a mere observer. And as an observer, I'm watching how I'm reacting. I'm watching how others are reacting. And I'm able to meter myself in the moment to, in my opinion, leave that experience the best way that I can leave it.
Wow.
Because I don't think your authentic self leaves carnage. No, I'm just being really honest. I think I think hurt people hurt people.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think your authentic self is saying that I'm hurt right now, and this may not be the time or place for me to express that. So I'm going to give grace to this moment. I'm going to ask for an opportunity to come back to whatever it is, the situation, at a time when I know that I can represent it better. Right? I think your authentic self is, as I'll give you a perfect example. When I started in my new organization, I started in obviously an elevated role. It was, brand new. And on this particular day, I can't remember what happened. Like I I had accelerated growth in the last couple of years, and earlier on in my early days, there was a lot of things going on, and in large part I was learning on the go, and so I felt a lot of anxiety, you know, like I felt things up in my chest. And on this particular day, I had left a conversation, not that my boss called me anxiety, but I left the conversation with my boss and felt anxiety, and the next minute, like literally the next minute, I had to enter into a conversation with my direct reports, and the majority of them were male. And I remember coming in and saying, and they didn't know me, really. I was new, right? And I was like, I just want to let you know I'm experiencing anxiety right now. And I actually don't know what that's going to look like, because I've never been in a new role, in a new organization, just coming out of a meeting with my boss, walking into a meeting with a bunch of my direct reports and feeling anxiety. Never experienced that before in my life. So I'm asking you to give me grace as I navigate this.
Right.
To me, that was me. Like, and I don't even think I was like, oh, I'm going to be my most authentic self. But like, now that I'm relaying it, that was a very authentic moment for myself. I felt no shame that I had anxiety, even though I'm the VP in the room, right? And that's just a title. Like, you know, I had no shame sharing that. Like, I've never navigated this before in my life. Like, I absolutely have no clue how I'm going to do. But by sharing that, I released any hold or stronghold,
100%.
whatever the forces were trying to maybe throw me off my game. I just released it, and there was nothing. And next thing you know, I didn't even know when the anxiety just lost away. But the most incredible thing is what I got back after was again. I work in tech, so heavily male dominated, and one of my male leaders said to me that he had a real conversation with his significant other, and he's like, I was just absolutely amazed, because I've never in my career had an executive just kind of just openly say, and it says, and it helps me come to work and share that I have anxiety.
Human. Right.
Was that? I know this is a long, drawn-out way to talk about how I think about it.
Honestly, because, like, you know, I feel like even me not being in the room, right, the way you related it, it just made it feel like, look, at the end of the day, we are all human, right? So whether you're a VP, you are the vice president, you are the owner of the company, you are an investor, whatever it is, we're all human. At the end of the day, common denominator, your blood is flowing through your veins, is flowing through mine as well. And I think it just takes off the pressure they might have been coming with as well. Brings down their own walls as well to be able to relate with you. And, you know, thank you so much for sharing that. Because I feel like, you know, most times, yes, you could be vulnerable at home or outside, but at work, people want to be like Superman, Superwoman, like, oh,
and
I got
feel
this.
I feel like you're not connected to the experience. Like what you just spoke to me. I personally believe, this is just Nkechi's philosophy, take it or leave it. I believe that all of us have the responsibility, in my opinion, to leave every experience that you're in better than you found it. And if you just ascribe that responsibility to your human, then you will have way better experiences than you have currently. I promise you. Just that. Because a lot of people think that they're powerless. And I'm like, no, we all carry so much more power than we actually believe that we have. Like, one of my favorite quotes comes from that. I think everything's resolved. Everything in this interview is revolving around Marianne Williams's book. By the way, I've mentioned that book so many times. Somebody's got to tell her so she can reach out to me and say that she wants to meet me. But anyway.
Look, you need to run Nkechi the check. I am going to put, we're going to put the credits in the book.
But in that book, one of the most famous quotes, our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we're actually powerful beyond measure. Beyond measure. Infinite power. And it's not just for some of us. It's for everyone. That's it. She didn't just say it's just for, you know, the elite or the people who have figured it out. It's for everyone. And so this is why I always tell women, like, walk away from, like, we should, I literally will not sit on a panel that will talk about the imposter syndrome. I'd be like, you gotta change up the question. Change it up. Change it up. Let's talk. Let's really put it on. Let's really put what we need to talk about on the table. And it's not that term. Sorry. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, you've shared so much today that we have not even scratched the surface of the questions
Okay.
that we had prepared for you.
Am I taking you around in that?
It's been so insightful that we could go on and on. But I just want to highlight something that you're doing, of course, your personal project, which is the Empowered in My Skin.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why are you doing it?
Well, I think skin, everybody has skin.
Common denominator. So whether you're white, black, purple, male, female,
everybody has skin. I have
skin.
to tell you a funny joke, right? So on the podcast, I asked that question, like, what does it mean to be empowered in my skin, as a parting question. And I remember this one time I had this lovely, lovely, lovely white guest. And I don't think, and I get it. Like, I think if you just say skin, for most people, like, they think dark skin. Yeah, right? So I saw a moment of, in my skin, like, just this, sorry. And I just...
Please don't let this coffee smell on my nose.
So we had to repeat the question, because I'm in interview, I was like, oh, I don't think she's ever really thought that she's in skin. Like, she's...
Yeah. Okay, now I get it.
So I was like, yeah, even your skin. Right. And so, yes, Empowered in My Skin was really born from the journey that I was on. And I got to a point where I was levitating, like I was feeling really, really light. And I felt very empowered. And I came up with the term Empowered in My Skin. And it became my mission to not only, like, why should I be the only person in this world that feels so empowered in my skin? And I just put a mission out there to help 1 billion people in this world think in ways that are empowering. And I think it's really important. I think that's how we create sustainable change in this world. And so if I walk into, like, so for example, you and I are having this interaction, okay? It's very easy for me to say, I'm going to empower, like, I'm going to inspire you. I'm going to maybe motivate you. I'm going to make you feel great. But I will be honest with you, I think that that's short-sighted. I think that that's what your eyes can see. And I'm encouraging people through Empowered in My Skin to see beyond that interaction. Because I think then I will take better care with this interaction that we're having. Because if I'm thinking about your next interaction, or the one that's going to happen even beyond the one that you have next, it means that there's another human, there's a community, there's another experience there that if I'm not careful, I can negatively influence if I don't take care of this one. And so that's why I'm like, Empowered in My Skin to me is seeing beyond what your eyes can see, right? It's about recognizing that what lives within you can transcend through all of your experiences to impact rooms and spaces and places that you have absolutely no idea about. You know? So yeah, that's my mission, and that's what I really hope to unlock with the movement.
Wow, 1 billion people.
1 billion people.
It's possible.
It is possible. Indeed, it is.
8+ billion. So
one eighth is my responsibility.
So one person at a time. With time, you would get to 1 billion and probably surpass
it. And it will not necessarily mean that I'm going to hit all 8, but it's that domino effect.
Right.
Yeah.
Each one reach one.
Yeah.
That's the goal. So I mean, that's very, very key. You know, we protecting what our interactions with each other would be, because whatever I give to you in this interaction will definitely kind of maybe influence, or whether empower or even remove my power if care is not taken, right? But I know that you have, of course, been in powerful positions for so long that, you know, you've done a lot of things, like, you know, you said in tech, you've been high-level executive for so long. How have you been able to, you know, remain that authentic self while navigating, like, of course, rising high in your corporate jobs and also, like, managing that with entrepreneurship?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. Okay, so I'm going to say that I'll start with the corporate. It's probably about 4 going on 5 years where I gave up title. Okay. I admit there was a time where I chased title. Oh my gosh, yeah, and other people's promotion would feel like my demotion, right? Like like if you see somebody getting like whatever executive and you're still a senior manager.
Please run it back. We need to highlight that part, because a lot of people actually think the other way around. Like, oh, she got promoted. Oh, it means that I'm not doing something right.
Yeah, no, but that's what I mean. Their promotion feels like your demotion,
right?
Rather than just celebrating whatever path they were on to get that, because a lot of times you're watching the highlight reel, but there's probably scars and pain points that you would run from if you knew, right? So I gave up title. That was a mentor of mine that really helped me get there really, really quickly. And instead what I adopted was I'm going to use the term what needed to be true. So when I think about an environment where my characteristics and attributes would come alive and be very value add at the table, what would need to be present? What would need to be true? What would the opportunity need to be presenting to me? And so for me, and it could be whatever it is for people, I had 4 things, and the 4 things, and they carry true so much. Like, so corporately, I wanted to be in rooms where change and transformation was occurring. Otherwise, because I had too many experiences where, think about like you get a new car, by the time it's on your driveway, if you're even starting to complain about the features and this, then the other, it's a moot point at this point, because the same people that created that car, that prototype, are already working on probably two other models before they haven't even landed an image anywhere for anyone to look at. So it's about recognizing that by the time changes happened, the faster you can get into adopting, like being a change agent or a change advocate and figuring how to make it better for the mass, so as many people as possible, rather than sitting in the yard complaining about it, will then propel you to an opportunity where you will now be in the rooms where you'll be asked to be helping drive change and drive transformation. So that was important. I wanted to drive change, drive transformation. The other thing is, for any organization I'm in, it's got to be important at the top, right? So the board's got to really care about it. And then the third thing is, I want it to scare me, right? So if I'm not waking up every single morning having to put on my big girl panties, chances are I'm not in a role that's stretching me and growing me. And then the last thing is, I wanted to be in experiences that I would be able to evangelize, right? Like outside of the 4 walls of wherever I find myself, but like on a platform where I get this opportunity to help others, all because of my North Star mission of helping 1 billion people think in ways that are empowering. Because that's not just through Empowered in My Skin. That's in everything that Nkechi Nwafor Robinson is engaged in, right? And so, kind of removing title, those 4 things that needed to be true, absent of the title, are what drives me and propels me. And the truth is, I think that has actually helped to accelerate sort of the journey. By focusing on that, I've now been, when a position is presented to me, I'm like, okay, does it meet?
Does it trigger my ability to bring about transformation? Does it mean,
like, yes, is it going to be, who's it important to? What kind of decision? That's another thing. Women, we all want these promotions, but a lot of times I don't think we even ask questions like, well, what kind of decisions I'm going to make? You can get promoted to the next VP role, but if you're in a VP role that has absolutely zero decision autonomy, or has
VP
no
for food.
You know what I mean? So it's really not about title. It's got to be about what critical experiences is it that you want to gain? What are the things that need to be true for you? What do you think is going to bring out your best characteristics and attributes? Because that's how you'll shine. That's how you'll make a difference. And that's how you'll add value at any room, at any table that you occupy, right? So that's how I've, the latter part of my career, I wish I kind of learned that lesson really early on, but in the latter part of my career now, that's how I'm navigating that. And then the other thing is, I think that the whole entrepreneur, I'm fortunate. Some people say I have the side hustle and plus I have a career job. I would say that Empowered in My Skin is everywhere I go. And I just happen to also have a company called Empowered in My Skin, because skin is my skin is with me everywhere I go.
Right.
And I get to help others in all of my interactions be more empowered in the skin that they're in. And so for me, that is, so it's probably it's an easier question for me to answer. That blend, that mix of it is trying to, just like we talked about it earlier on, but like the better you get to know who you are, I think you flow in your purpose. You flow into your purpose, right? Like you kind of you lock step with your purpose, and I think it's very possible that your purpose is in everything that you do.
Wow, look.
I don't think it's outside of you.
Whew. I feel like I should take you with me everywhere I go.
Oh,
and this is me shamelessly asking now for mentorship.
Well, whatever. Come on, look out. I shouldn't say that, but I was gonna say you mentor me as well. We're gonna share.
Honestly,
we're gonna share.
we should
Okay,
exchange
we're gonna do some mutual
mentorship
mentoring
and menteeship,
Yeah,
or whatever
we're
called.
just mutual mentoring.
I am shamelessly asking to have you as one of our mentors in the Leading Ladies Mental Health Program.
You're doing this to me live?
Yes, I am. Please, everybody.
That's kind of unfair, but anyway.
Like, I feel like there's just so much to learn. Mm-hmm. There's so much to see, because I am very, very, like, I feel like I absorb so many things. Mm-hmm. And it's helped me, and I know you've talked about mentorship, you've talked about being a mentor, you've talked about even listening to mentors. So I mean, it means you're a mentee to some people, right?
And I'm mentored.
And you mentor women and stuff like that.
No, and so I am mentored. I have mentors.
That's what I'm saying. So you're a mentee to somebody
else.
Oh,
mentee, yes.
So, how or what importance has mentorship done? Or what is the importance of mentorship to you as an individual? Because there are a lot of people that feel like, oh, I don't think it's for me. I don't need a mentor. I'm okay. I'm doing well by myself. I just want you to shed more light on that, because I feel like a lot of women, maybe people really need to bring themselves down to be like, you are great, but you're not all that, because you need to learn from somebody who has probably more mileage, and they are able to show you, okay, this is how it should be done to avoid, errors.
And you would be way closer to that. I guess, you know what? No, I shouldn't say that, because I recognize I'm getting ready to be in a mentor relationship, and just found out that this is going to be their first official mentor, and they've been in their career for some time. So yeah, I think it's a very valid question, actually. I had a mentor without having a mentor. So when I think about, I've been in my career now for about 25 years. It's hard to believe. 25 plus, I'm going to say. And I reached out to her today, if she's listening to this. So I'll call her out, Kathy McDonald. And I'll never forget. So when I was at Rogers Communications, she was a senior executive over there. And she mentored me from afar, like far. Like there was we didn't talk about mentorship back then or sponsorship. But I remember watching her. She'd be, no matter what, no matter how many times I tried to beat her to the office, she'd always be there first.
Look, those kind of mentors are like, I'm watching you, please slow down.
I'd observe her in meetings, like how she commanded attention, how she thought, how she articulated when she spoke, what she said, what she didn't say, and and I think about the most powerful mentors I've had have not been like direct mentors, right? Like they have been people who have been aspirational. Like this is why I always tell people, like, a lot of times they're like, well, if they got that role, I can get that role. And I'm like, why are you always comparing yourself to the bottom rung people, right? Like compare yourself to the people that aspirationally you want to be like, And so I've had a lot of that. But the role of mentorship has helped me get out of tight spots a lot quicker than I would have been able to had I not had them. I think it's helped me feel connected in career moments where I felt like there was some stagnation, and mentorship helped me get through those moments, right? Like helping me bring clarity to the situation. I think it helps me check my ego. You know what I mean? But I think the biggest thing that mentorship has done for me, and I think why I agree everyone should have one, is that it helps you get to point A faster than if you had to try to figure it out on your own. That's just, I mean, like, why are you going to go through all this pain and scars and fail, like missteps when there's people who have done it?
And they have done it well.
And they have done it well, and they can help guide you and, and share insights and hear what you're going through and say, okay, why don't you try this? And you can actually leave right away and go and try it and maybe get a step forward, right? So why wouldn't you want to accelerate your growth, right? So I think, everyone should seek a mentor. I think what probably stifles a lot of people is the approach, right?
Right.
Like just going out and asking. So I do believe that great mentorship starts with, at least starting to inform some type of connection, and I think mentorship can also be very, very short. It could be really, really long. I think it could be anything that you need it. But at the end of the day, it's really just finding that person that can really help you navigate steps a little quicker, because through the experiences that they're sharing, right?
Wow. And honestly, the importance of mentors cannot be overemphasized.
No, it can't.
I feel like some of my mentors have gotten me into rooms that maybe it would have taken me 15 years. Mm-hmm. And they're just like, oh, I'm going to this place, come with me. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the reasons why we birthed the Leading Ladies Mentor Her program. Because mm-hmm. I just feel like a lot of things that people see me doing mm-hmm. is either maybe, like you said, a direct or indirect mentor just suggested something. Mm-hmm. Or you're watching a podcast and the person just says, oh, this is how I do my stuff. Mm-hmm. I wake up 4:30 a.m. I do this. I'm like, look, I could actually wake up at 4:30 a.m. Mm-hmm. and make my life better too, right? Mm-hmm. So I really put a lot of value on mentorship because mm-hmm. I know that there's so much that you could get done mm-hmm. with that. So I really appreciate you sharing that. Mm-hmm. And you said you were going to be on our
No.
I'm taking that.
I said, are you asking me live?
I'm asking you live.
Which is
I am asking you live.
Oh, come on.
I am asking you live, please. But anyways, we'll definitely talk about that more because, of course, I know you're very busy.
I didn't say no. I didn't, busy. Actually, so this is a great one for your listeners. And shout out to Jennifer Gibbs because she gave me this one. And it's such another mind-blowing concept.
Right.
Busy is not a scheduling problem. We do what we want to do, not what we have to do, right? And so busy's not. I love helping people. I really do. I do believe that I was born to be, a meaningful helper. And so we will talk.
Yes.
Okay.
Love that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's like a yes, but not a
no. It's not. It's not. So here's the thing. I do believe that in order for me to be of value, it requires it. I would need to make sure that I could have the right amount of focus and space and capacity, right, to deliver. So that's why I'm saying let's talk and let's see. Yeah, mm-hmm.
I really appreciate that, and I know our time is fast spent. However, I still have a few things to ask you. Okay. So, what's like your number one piece of advice for women who are maybe starting out, or is there something you want to share about, like things you wish you had known before now? Now that you're older and wiser, and you've had all these experiences to your life, is there something that you wish you had known earlier that
something that I haven't said? I think so I will say a couple of things, and I'm going to use strategies that are part of Empowered in My Skin because I think all of those are the things I wish I had grown up knowing. So I talked about the first one, which is be convinced, and be convinced about what? It's about who you are. And I'll tell you why, because when you're not convinced about who you are, you're leaving yourself wide open for the world to ascribe something to your human, right? I actually recently, I'm not sure when this is going to air, but I did share at the beginning of 2025, just the self-talk game, the self-talk journey I've been on for over 4,000 days now. And it's just talking to myself every single day and how that has actually influenced and given people the language to use to speak about me, right? So it's pretty marvelous how that happens, right? And so so you need to own your self-talk. You need to own the language that people use to speak about you. So that's number one. Number two, be relentless, right? Like I think back to the whole suffering and awareness, I think navigating life knowing that there's supposed to be challenges. My mom, I don't know if it's an African thing, but my mom said that, any path that has no obstacles is a path that leads to nowhere. I don't know if people know that one, but I recognize, like, being relentless for me is awareness and knowledge and understanding that there is a path that's going to have obstacles, and when it happens, it's not about if it's going to happen, right? And so the question is, how do I equip myself now so that when it does happen, I navigate it a lot smoother? So it's being relentless, anticipating that there is going to be, like, I'm going to call them like an attack against your human, an attack against your goals, an attack against the things that you're trying to strive for, but not to fall back. Right? To lean into it because you are prepared. Everything you need to get through it already lives inside of you. It's not the time to go and try and figure it out. Number 3, be patient. I think that's something I wish I had known when I was, growing up. Even is that you don't want anything quicker than you're ready for, and there's something very powerful about cultivating yourself, nurturing yourself, equipping yourself, building your foundation. Like, you don't want to be like a steeple. You want to have breadth of experience and foundation. And I think that it takes patience to build that, Anything that comes too quickly, I tell you, will fall really quickly as well. And so it's about allowing life. It's about allowing the things that you are called to come to you, right? And I think that requires a cultivated patience. And then the 4th key one is be positioned, and that is about your network, right? That's about your environment. It's about your network is your net worth. I think networking is not reserved for events. Being in tech, it's hard for me to, not make this analogy, but as human beings, I think we're constantly transmitting. So we are live walking networks. And I think every experience is an opportunity for you to network, whether you're at this grocery store or whether you're in a corporate setting or whether you're at the gas station or whether you're in a movie theater or whether you're getting your eyebrows done or you're sitting around at the airport. Like, all of these opportunities are for you to connect with another human being, and you'd be astounded at the connects that you will make. And never for this moment. That's why I say never miss a moment. Never miss a moment. Observe the janitor. Like, pay attention to people. Like, just pay attention to people because you just never know. And your network is never for today. It's for a moment in the future. Sometime in the future. It could be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. But somebody's going to reach out to you and say, hey. And you're going to be like, didn't we, meet like 5 years ago? And it's going to be just rightly positioned for you. I think the other thing that I have now become, my positioning now has been more about, and maybe it's age, I don't know, but it's more so I want to be positioned for others. And so it's about creating a network that serves others. And so I love being a super connector. So that if you come to me asking me for help, I'm a finite human being. There's only so much capacity I have, or knowledge or awareness or experiences. Mm-hmm. And so I want to be able to quickly connect you to somebody else, right? And so that could be able to help you. So, yeah.
Okay, so in case you didn't know, we actually went on live in Instagram.
Oh, Lord
and
have mercy.
People are asking questions because they just love you.
What do you? First of all, you put on blast.
But anyway,
you put on blast so he can be a mentor. You go on.
Right. So we just wanted
we're
to
not
get
accepting live questions.
We wanted to get it up because I feel that you're sharing just so much wisdom, and just to get people into the flow of course. Some of these episodes have not yet aired and stuff like that. But you know what? I'm going to wrap the question into something that I already have here that I was going to ask you.
Okay.
Of course, in the middle of all of this joy, and, all of the Nkechi we all love or know and, sharing all your life experiences, I'm sure there are some experiences that have been a bit life-changing for you, mm-hmm. that are not as happy or as bubbly. Mm-hmm. In some of my research, mm-hmm. I found out that you had at some point talked about being a bodybuilder, mm-hmm. And, what was that like, and are you still doing that?
Yes, not all of my experiences are pleasurable, but all of my experiences have taught me something. I can't be sitting here with you with any of that being absent. So I think I want to make that very clear. Like, I don't, it's often said I wouldn't choose it, but I wouldn't change it either, right? So bodybuilding, oh my gosh. That is not for the faint at heart.
Oh my God.
It is absolutely not
imagine.
for the faint at heart. It's actually, I'm going to say it's a little bit of a selfish sport. Yeah.
Right.
Because it's very individual. It's very, 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 very specific. And your friends and your family really need to understand the level, and depending on the level that you compete at, I obviously competed at elite levels. It could be, it's a very solo sport, and it could be very isolating for friends and family.
Okay.
But I got into it because I've always been athletic. I take after my dad. I played soccer, and in 2005 I broke my knee playing soccer, and I needed some type of outlet, but I'd already been bodybuilding, so I decided that I would get into competition, and I never looked back. So
Wow.
but it's also, I just want to say something too about, I think, and why I encourage women especially, you don't have to become a bodybuilder, but I think there's something about challenging your body, your physical body, to limits that defy just what the mere person feels is possible. There's something about that. Even if it's like, it's not even necessarily getting yourself to elite athletic status, but it's like going to the gym and doing something that's hard. You know what I mean? Like lifting weight that requires you to, that pushes you to limits, that actually fatigues your muscle to the point where you can't lift one more. It teaches you about resilience. It teaches you about being under pressure, right? And still being able to push through. So totally recommend it for women.
Right. So on a final note,
Oh, we're concluding. Yay.
Yes.
Okay.
So on a final note, I want you to look in the camera. I know you're the queen of affirmations and positive self-talk, but just sign us off on something extremely dear to you, and you feel like these women or men that are watching us everywhere around the world can take away from this conversation and use in their life daily.
So I personally believe, and I will die for this mission, that I think it's actually really important as a human being that you are the first person you speak to every single morning. And so for most of us, we have to brush our teeth, which means that you're going to be standing in front of a mirror. And I want you to start to think about that person that you're looking back. And this makes me really emotional because there was a time where I'd look at myself in the mirror, or could not even look at myself in the mirror, but barely could tell myself as I'm looking at that image that I'm beautiful. And it just started with me just taking one affirmation, and I am, and telling myself that every single day. And so now I'm able to get up every single morning and look in the mirror and say, I am phenomenal. I am beautiful. I'm born to win. I'm designed for accomplishment. I am engineered for success. I'm endowed with the seeds of greatness. I'm enterprising. I'm industrious. I'm innovative. I'm creative. I'm a place from where the infinite expresses. I am a multi-millionaire. Thank you. I'm perfectly aligned to receive. I am bellwether. I create amazing experiences for myself and others. I recognize and release the joy and laughter from within me. My life is magnetic. My joy is contagious. My passion is irresistible. And when you, human that's out there looking at me, when you get me, you get an exceptional human that cares and loves you unconditionally. And that is me, Nkechi. I am God's gift.
Wow.
Indeed I am.
Look. Wow. So we've left this episode feeling so inspired, encouraged. And I want to say thank you to you for joining us. Honestly, this has been one of the most uplifting episodes.
You're very kind. You're very, very complimentary.
Honestly.
I want to thank you. I actually write in my gratitude journal. We didn't actually talk about habits and routines, but I do believe routines, habits are exceptionally important for like success and this and the other. So every night I write in my gratitude journal.
Yeah, no.
And tonight you are going to be an entry.
Oh, that warms my heart. For somebody who actually has the 5 minutes gratitude journal.
Okay.
I love it because like every night before I go to bed as well, I write out 5 minutes, just pick out what were the top 2 things that happened to you today that you're grateful for. And I think you've given me an idea. You're also probably going to be like the highlight of my day today as well. Honestly, because like, you know, before you came in studio, I was just saying to them like, okay, she's coming. She's like a bundle of joy. She's this, she's that. But this recording has actually taken it up a notch. Because you've really uplifted me and even everyone here in the studio, you know, and I'm sure everyone that would watch and listen to us after now. So thank you so much for honoring us with your presence and bringing the joy that you share everywhere.
Thank you.
So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us on this episode of Leading Ladies Talks. If you want to learn more about Leading Ladies Connect and our initiatives, please go on our website, www.leadingladiesconnect.com. And to find out more about Nkechi and everything awesome that she does, she's on Instagram. We'll put it in the episode notes so you're able to find out more about Empowered in My Skin, their website, and everything else. Thank you so much for joining us. Till next time, stay well and God bless you.
Yeah.
Bye.